So, what happens when three totally different stories about the same people break on the exact same day? Well, on September 1st, 2025, the media painted three contradictory, and I mean wildly different, portraits of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. We're going to break down that 24-hour media storm to see how a public image is really fought over and shaped right in front of our eyes.
Okay, let's just dive right in. The day kicked off with this pretty jarring claim from an anonymous source published by RadarOnline.com. And this quote, it really sets the stage for a narrative of deep personal insecurity for Prince Harry and his new life.
But here's where it gets really interesting. That portrait of insecurity? It's in such sharp contrast with other reports from the very same day. One minute he's struggling, the next he's this dedicated philanthropist. So it makes you wonder, right? How can both of these stories possibly exist at the same time?
To figure that out, we're going to break down the three conflicting narratives about Harry and Meghan that all came out within that single 24-hour news cycle.
So let's start with narrative number one. This one paints a picture of, well, personal turmoil. And this whole story was driven by an exclusive report in RadarOnline.com, which, and this is important, relied entirely on anonymous insider sources. So, according to this report, Harry has a new nickname, Fox. But get this, it's not being presented as some cute, endearing nickname. The source claims it's actually a tool Meghan uses for daily reassurance, a constant effort to boost what they call his fragile ego. And why would he need all this reassurance? Well, the source alleges Harry feels completely out of place in LA and even lists off these specific physical insecurities that supposedly make him feel inadequate among Meghan's wellness-obsessed crowd. This whole narrative of insecurity also zooms in on speculation about his appearance, specifically his hair. The article brings up these long-standing rumors of a hair transplant, with their source now claiming a recent attempt to fix his fading locks. Well, it just hasn't worked. You know, it wasn't all super heavy, though. On a lighter, but still pretty personal note, a little detail from Meghan's new show actually made headlines in People magazine. Chef Jose Andres calls out Harry's dislike of lobster, which People magazine points out could stem from his royal upbringing, where you just don't eat shellfish on official duties for safety reasons. In all of this entire narrative of personal insecurity and feeling out of place, it all builds to this one pretty explosive quote. The anonymous source claims the couple's relationship is so strained that they're basically living separate lives under the same roof.
But remember that question we asked at the start? Because on the very same day, a completely different story emerges. This one, detailed in Town & Country magazine and People, paints a picture not of separation, but of a real partnership.
And here, the contrast couldn't be more clear. While one report is claiming they live separate lives, their work with Chef Jose Andres' World Central Kitchen shows this multi-year public partnership. It started back in 2020 when their foundation funded relief centers. It kept going through 2022 with donations for Ukraine, and just this year, in 2025, they were reportedly volunteering on the ground together during the California wildfires. It's a picture of consistent, hands-on teamwork.
And the chef himself, Jose Andres, really reinforces this. He spoke to People and described them not as some fractured couple, but as a dedicated, effective team that he's proud to call his friends. A starkly different image from the one painted by those anonymous sources, right?
Okay, so that brings us to the third narrative that dropped on September 1st. This one shifts focus completely. It moves away from their life in California and zeroes in on their complicated, ongoing relationship with the royal family.
So according to a report in India Times, Prince Harry is ready to talk reconciliation with his father, King Charles. But, and yeah, it's a big but, it's only if a very specific set of conditions are met first. And they all seem to focus on security and, crucially, on how Meghan is treated.
But, as you can probably guess, the path to peace is not going to be simple. These reports highlight a huge difference in attitude between the king and his heir. King Charles is said to be open to a quiet conversation, but Prince William is reportedly just not interested, with sources saying it all comes down to a deep mistrust of Meghan. And this whole family dynamic could all come to a head very soon. Harry is expected back in the UK for the Well Child Awards, and his visit will also mark the 3rd anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's death, which makes it a particularly loaded time for either a family reunion or, well, a continued rift. So let's zoom back out for a second. What does all this mean when you put these three totally different stories, the personal, the public, and the royal, all together? What does one day of news actually tell us? Well, on this one day, the public was basically given 3 different versions of the Sussexes to choose from. You had the personal story portraying them as a failing couple, all driven by gossip, then the public one showing them as a philanthropic power duo praised by their partners, and finally, the royal story, which framed them as strategic negotiators in a really tense family feud.
And what you have to realize is this isn't just about a few conflicting news reports. This is a full-on battle over perception. Each narrative gives us a different lens to see the couple through, which means every single thing they do from now on will probably be interpreted through one of these existing frames. This is a fight for control over the definition of the Sussex brand itself.
And this is the real challenge for any public figure today. As these competing stories keep getting told by sources, by the media, and by the couple themselves, it really leaves us with one final question. In this battle of narratives, who actually gets to write the ending?